The ancient human Titan-class warship's railguns smashed through the Barzan Xenos fleet, the ship's AI core giving not a single fuck about collateral damage while it protected the technological secrets locked inside from the alien scum. Captain Mark Carter's salvage team stared in shock as the 200-year-old Earth Federation battlecruiser ripped apart the hostile aliens without mercy or hesitation. Just minutes earlier, Carter and his crew from the TSF Hercules repair vessel had boarded the drifting derelict in the Oort cloud, hoping to recover the Nemesis and the advanced weapons tech hidden in its battle-scarred hull. Now, they watched wide-eyed as the ship came alive with brutal efficiency, its missile racks launching swarms of armor-piercing death, its point defense lasers swatting Barzan strike craft like flies. The Nemesis had gone missing centuries ago on a classified dark ops run deep behind enemy lines. No one in the Terran space fleet knew exactly what the ship had been transporting, but now it was the only thing standing between Carter's salvage team and a gruesome death at the claws of the Barzan monsters. The ship's log had cut out, leaving ominous questions about the strange ambush that disabled it. Regardless, one thing was clear. If the Nemesis fell, the Barzans would butcher Carter and his people, then seize its powerful secrets to unleash genocidal hell against humanity's worlds. The Hercules was a sitting duck, its paltry weapons useless against the advancing Xenos capital ships. The Nemesis had to hold the line, alone, against a superior alien force, until Carter could reactivate its slipspace drive and escape to Terran space. Without the Nemesis and its deadly payload, the Barzan scum would exterminate mankind to the last child. The Titan-class warship had been humanity's most potent weapon in the Great War, and now it was their only hope for survival if Carter could keep the Nemesis from falling into alien hands. Captain Carter sprinted through the airlock back onto the Hercules, his heart pounding. He activated his risk communicator. "Wilson Thompson, I need you to stay on the Nemesis and gather any useful tech or data you can find. Hurry. Barzan ships will be here any minute. I'll handle things from the Hercules. Move." Racing onto the bridge, Carter strapped into the command chair. "Ares, talk to me. What are we looking at?" The AI's avatar flickered to life on a holo display. "Scans show 3 Raptor-class Barzan frigates and 1 Imperator-class cruiser inbound, ETA 7 minutes. Captain, their combined firepower vastly outguns the Hercules." Shit. Carter studied the tactical overlay, mind racing. They couldn't outrun the Barzans. Fighting would be suicide. Then it hit him. What if we use the Nemesis as bait? Lure the Barzans in close, then hit them with the Herc's EMP burst? It could work, but we'd need the Nemesis weapons and shields online to sell the ruse. Otherwise the Barzans will smell an ambush. "On it," Carter hailed the salvage team. "Wilson Thompson, change of plans, get the Nemesis defenses back up and running, but don't reveal her full capabilities yet. We're going to play possum, then spring the trap." Suddenly, a harsh alien voice crackled over comms. "Human vessels, this is Admiral Xenos of the Barzan Imperium. You are trespassing in our space. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed." The view screen crackled to life, revealing a scarred reptilian face with cold, merciless eyes. Xenos. Carter recognized him from intel reports, a ruthless strategist infamous for his hatred of humans. Carter forced his face into a defeated expression. "Admiral Xenos, I'm Captain Mark Carter. We surrender and request time to prepare my crew for evacuation." Xenos flashed a predatory grin, fangs glinting. "You have 5 minutes, human. Any attempt at resistance will result in your utter annihilation." As the view screen went dark, Carter clenched his fists. Everything depended on the next few minutes. He maneuvered the Hercules into position between the Nemesis and the incoming Barzan ships, ready to fire the EMPs. If this gambit failed, they were all dead and humanity would fall soon after. The Nemesis had to stay out of Barzan claws no matter the cost. Carter held his breath as the Barzan ships honed in, their metallic hulls reflecting the pale light of distant stars. His fingers danced across the command console, initiating the EMP burst. A wave of electromagnetic energy rippled out from the Hercules, washing over the approaching frigates. Their lights flickered and died, leaving them drifting helplessly. But the Imperator cruiser pressed forward, its shields shimmering as they absorbed the EMP. Carter's heart sank as its plasma cannons swiveled to target the Hercules. The first salvo slammed into their shields, alarms blaring on the bridge. "Shields at 60% and falling fast," Ares reported, his voice tense. Carter opened a channel to the Nemesis. "Wilson, Thompson, I need that railgun operational now. Target the cruiser's engines." Inside the Nemesis weapons bay, Wilson and Thompson raced against time. Sparks flew as they ripped open control panels, frantically splicing wires to bypass fried circuits. The railgun's capacitors hummed as they siphoned power from the fusion core. Another barrage struck the Hercules, the deck shuddering beneath Carter's feet. "Shields critical," Ares warned. On the Nemesis, Thompson slammed the firing controls. "Railgun charged." A thunderous boom resounded through the ship as a tungsten round erupted from the massive barrel at immense velocity. It crossed the void in milliseconds, puncturing the cruiser's shields like tissue paper and shredding its engines. Plasma and debris spewed into space as the mighty vessel lurched dead in the water. "They're disabled," Ares confirmed. But Admiral Xenos wasn't finished. His scarred face contorted with rage as he barked orders. "Prepare a boarding party. I want those humans alive." Her shuttle launched from the cruiser's hangar bay, speeding toward the Nemesis. Carter's mind raced, analyzing and discarding strategies. Then it hit him. "Wilson, Thompson, set the Nemesis reactor to overload. Get your asses back here now." Not needing to be told twice, they made a mad dash for the airlock. The shuttle grew larger in the viewport, alien soldiers visible in its hold. Wilson and Thompson leaped through the umbilical into the Hercules just as the hatch sealed behind them. Mere seconds later, the Nemesis vanished in a blinding flash as its reactor went critical. The blast wave engulfed the shuttle, vaporizing it instantly, and slammed into the crippled cruiser, tearing through its ravaged hull. Secondary explosions chained through its decks as atmosphere vented from gaping wounds. On the Hercules bridge, Carter sagged in his chair, adrenaline still surging. They had bought a respite, nothing more. The Barzans would come for them again, thirsting for retribution. This was only the first skirmish in a war that could spell humanity's downfall. But for now they were alive, and while he still drew breath, Carter would keep fighting no matter the odds. The secrets locked in his mind could turn the tide if he could get them back to the Terran fleet. Failure was not an option. Carter, Wilson, and Thompson stepped through the airlock onto the Hercules, their mag boots clanking against the deck. Thompson clutched a battered data drive, the only artifact they'd managed to pull from the Nemesis before its reactor went critical. In the Herc's briefing room, Carter slotted the drive into the holotable. "Ares, what have we got?" The AI's avatar shimmered to life, lines of code streaming across his face as he passed the data. "Captain, it appears the Nemesis was transporting an experimental weapon system codenamed Graviton Cannon. Specs indicate it's capable of generating localized singularities." Wilson's eyes widened. "Miniature black holes? Holy shit!" "The project was deep black," Ares continued. "Looks like they never got a chance to field test it before the war went south and the Nemesis vanished." Carter leaned on the holotable, a grim look etching his features. If the Barzans got their claws on this tech, they could punch holes in humanity's strongest ships effortlessly. "We can't let this fall into enemy hands. Ares, open a quantum link to TSF command, maximum encryption." As Carter waited for the link to connect, a thought gnawed at him. Why was the Nemesis carrying such a devastating weapon alone in the far reaches of space? What had its mission been? He shook himself. Those questions could wait. Right now, he had to get this intel back to HQ. The holoprojector hummed and a stern, scarred face snapped into focus. Admiral Kari Singh, head of TSF intelligence. Carter snapped a salute. "Admiral, we have a situation." On the shattered bridge of the Imperator-class cruiser, Admiral Xenos snarled, slamming a clawed fist into the sparking command console. The stench of smoke and burnt circuitry filled his nostrils. His finest warship, crippled by an antique human vessel and its upstart crew. Rage bubbled in his throat, acidic and hungry. A flicker of movement caught his eye. A rescue shuttle, skimming through the debris field towards his ruined ship. The hatch hissed open, and a trio of Barzan commandos leapt out, energy rifles primed. They took in the destruction with cold reptilian eyes before snapping to attention. "Admiral, Overlord Karjan demands an update. What are your orders?" Xenos hauled himself up, ignoring the pain lancing through his torn flesh. Vengeance sang in his blood, drowning out all else. "Patch me through to the Overlord, now." The commando tapped commands into his wrist comp, and a holofield bloomed to life. The imposing visage of Overlord Karjan glowered down at Xenos, his ceremonial battle armor gleaming. "Admiral, explain yourself." Xenos drew himself up, burying his shame and pain beneath a facade of bloodthirsty resolve. "Overlord, the humans have salvaged technology from one of their lost warships, technology that could threaten our conquest of their worlds. I request your authority to hunt them down and seize this prize for the Imperium." Karjan's eyes narrowed, his forked tongue tasting the air. "You mean to redeem your failure today?" "I mean to bring you their secrets and their broken corpses." A slow, cruel smile spread across the Overlord's face. "Then you shall have your chance, Admiral. Assemble a strike force, find this human ship, and bring me what it carries, along with the heads of its crew. Do not fail me again." As the holo faded, Xenos turned to his commandos. "Signal the fleet, we have a new target." On the bridge of the Hercules, Ares's avatar flickered with digital urgency. "Captain Carter, priority transmission from TSF Command." Carter straightened as Admiral Singh's holo image snapped into focus. "Captain, intelligence indicates the Barzans are already hunting for you and the salvage from the Nemesis. Your orders are to proceed immediately to Earth, deliver the data to R&D, and prepare to defend the intel at all costs. Reinforcements will rendezvous at these coordinates." A star map flashed onto the main screen, vectors pulsing. "Stick to the dark lanes, stay off the main shipping routes, and trust no one. If the Barzans intercept you before you reach Earth," the Admiral's face hardened, "destroy the data. We cannot allow the graviton cannon specs to fall into enemy hands, even if it costs us the entire Hercules and her crew. Understood?" Carter's throat tightened, but he nodded. "Aye, Admiral, we won't fail." As the link cut out, he turned to Wilson and Thompson, forcing his voice to stay level. "You heard the man. Grab some rack while you can. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of action before this is over." He watched his men file out, then sagged into the command chair, exhaustion and adrenaline warring in his veins. Somewhere out there, Xenos was rallying the Barzan war machine to hunt him down. And if those alien bastards caught up before they made Earthfall? Carter shook off the thought. All he could do was walk the tightrope and pray his luck held out. One way or another, this was going to be a long, bloody ride. The Hercules sliced through the void, her battered hull still bearing the scars of her last confrontation with the Barzans. Captain Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes locked on the view screen as stars streaked past. They were making good time towards Earth, the precious data from the Nemesis secured in the ship's heavily encrypted drives. Just as Carter allowed himself a moment of hope, the proximity alarms blared to life, red lights flashing across the command console. "Report!" he barked. Gers's avatar shimmered into existence, his digital features tight with concern. "Captain, sensors detect multiple Barzan ships dropping out of FTL, 2 Imperator-class cruisers and at least 10 Raptor-class frigates." Carter's jaw clenched. Xenos had found them. "Battle stations, divert power to shields and weapons." The deck shuddered as the first plasma blast slammed into the Hercules hull. Carter gripped the command chair, his mind racing. They were outgunned and outmaneuvered. "Ares, get me TSF command, now!" "Negative, Captain. The Barzans are jamming our long-range communications." Another volley rocked the ship, sparks cascading from overloaded consoles. "Shields at 40% and falling. Ares reported, his voice straining to be heard over the din of battle. Carter punched up a damage report, dread coiling in his gut as he scanned the flashing indicators. Main drives offline, weapons arrays failing, life support on backup power. They couldn't take much more of this. "Captain!" It was Wilson, his face smeared with grease and sweat as he burst onto the bridge. "The graviton cannon. If we can integrate it into the Herc's weapon systems—" "Do it!" Carter cut him off. "Take Thompson and make it happen." As Wilson sprinted back to engineering, Carter turned to Ares. By them time, evasive pattern Delta 5. The Hercules lurched and spun, her damaged thrusters straining to evade the relentless barrage. In engineering, Wilson and Thompson worked frantically, ripping out power conduits and splicing the Nemesis tech into the ship's overloaded circuits. "Reroute the plasma flow," Wilson yelled over the screech of tortured metal. "We need every joule for the cannon." On the bridge, Carter watched the shield indicators plummet towards zero. They were out of time. "Ares, status on that cannon?" "Integration complete, but the power drain is immense. We'll only get one shot." Carter nodded grimly. "Target the lead cruiser. Divert all power on my mark." The Hercules shook violently, her hull fracturing under the onslaught. Consoles exploded, showering the bridge crew with white-hot shrapnel. Carter gripped the targeting joystick, his knuckles white. "Fire!" A blinding lance of energy erupted from the Hercules' prow, space-time distorting in its wake. It speared the lead Barzan cruiser, the immense energies ripping open a swirling vortex of gravitational forces. The cruiser crumpled like tin foil, vanishing into the hungry maw of the newborn singularity. Secondary explosions rippled through the Barzan formation as the black hole consumed tons of debris, radiation, and stray ordnance. The remaining ships scattered, their captains desperate to escape the ravenous anomaly. "All power to engines," Carter roared. "Get us out of here." The Hercules' drives flared to life, the abused ship leaping forward on a column of blue shifted light. The battered vessel shimmered and vanished as it tore open a rift into FTL, leaving the chaos of the battlefield behind. But the escape had come at a dire cost. As the adrenaline faded, Carter surveyed the damage reports flooding in, life support fading, oxygen reserves critical. They'd escaped Xenos, but now faced a race against asphyxiation. Carter pushed down the fear, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Ares, find us somewhere to set down for repairs, and reroute every scrap of power you can to life support." He turned to his battered crew, their faces etched with determination despite the looming specter of death. "We're not finished yet. We'll complete this mission, no matter the cost, for Earth, for the Federation." In the silent void, the Hercules limped onwards, a damaged beast clinging to the shreds of hope. Somewhere ahead lay sanctuary, if they could reach it. Behind them, the hungry wolves gathered once more, ready to resume the chase. The Hercules limped through the void, her hull groaning under the strain of the desperate escape. In the flickering light of the damaged bridge, Captain Carter studied the readouts with a grim frown. Life support was failing, oxygen levels plummeting with each passing minute. They needed to find refuge, and fast. "Towers, scan for any nearby structures or outposts, anything that could serve as a temporary shelter." The AI's avatar shimmered, his digital features etched with concentration. "Captain, I'm detecting a derelict mining facility on a nearby asteroid. It appears abandoned, but I'm picking up faint power signatures." Carter nodded, a glimmer of hope sparking in his chest. "Set a course and send Wilson and Thompson to the armory. If there's anything alive over there, I want to be prepared." As the Hercules approached the asteroid, her scanners probing the pockmarked surface, Carter led his team through the airlock. Wilson and Thompson flanked him, pulse rifles primed and ready. The facility loomed before them, a sprawling complex of gantries and modules, eerily silent against the starlit backdrop. They moved cautiously through the corridors, mag boots clanking on the metal grating. The air was stale, recyclers struggling to filter the dust and debris. Carter's eyes flicked to the readouts on his helmet's HUD, watching for any signs of movement. Suddenly a voice crackled over the comm, tense and wary. "Hold it right there. Identify yourselves." Carter signaled his team to stop, raising his empty hands. "Captain Mark Carter, TSF Hercules, we're not looking for trouble. Our ship is damaged, and we need shelter for repairs." A figure stepped out from behind a bulkhead, rifle aimed squarely at Carter's chest. He was clad in a battered pressure suit, TSF insignia barely visible beneath the grime. "Carter? Mark Carter?" "That's right. And you are?" The man lowered his rifle, a tired smile cracking his weathered features. "Dr. Isaac Reeves, TSF Research Division. I never thought I'd see another friendly face out here." Reeves led them deeper into the facility, revealing a small group of survivors huddled around a flickering power core. Men and women, haggard but determined, eyes lighting up with cautious hope at the sight of Carter and his team. As Reeves explained their situation, Carter felt a surge of excitement. The Prometheus project, a more advanced iteration of the graviton cannon, could be the key to turning the tide against the Barzans, and with Reeves's help, they might just be able to get the Hercules back in fighting shape. The two teams worked tirelessly, repairing the Hercules systems and integrating the Prometheus weapon into her battle-scarred hull. Carter marveled at the efficiency of the new cannon, its sleek lines and glowing power couplings a far cry from the jury-rigged monstrosity they'd cobbled together from the Nemesis. But their respite was short-lived. Alarms blared through the facility, warning of an incoming ship. Carter raced to the command center, his heart pounding as he saw the telltale silhouette of a Barzan scout ship on the scanners. "Battle stations," he barked, adrenaline surging through his veins. "Reeves, we need that cannon online now." As the scout ship closed in, disgorging a squad of heavily armed Barzan warriors, Carter and his team took up defensive positions. Pulse rifles chattered, energy blasts scorching the air as the two forces clashed in the cramped confines of the mining facility. Carter ducked behind a crate, popping up to snap off a shot that sent a Barzan soldier tumbling. Beside him, Wilson and Thompson laid down a blistering suppressive fire, giving Reeves and his team time to bring the Prometheus cannon to bear. With a deep, thrumming hum, the weapon powered up, its barrel glowing with an otherworldly light. Reeves grinned fiercely as he sighted down the targeting scope, locking onto the Barzan ship. Firing now. A lance of pure gravitational force erupted from the cannon, warping the very fabric of spacetime as it streaked towards the enemy vessel. The scout ship crumpled like tin foil, crushed into a singularity before blinking out of existence. In the sudden silence that followed, Carter let out a shaky breath. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. With the Hercules repaired and the Prometheus cannon at their disposal, they set course for Earth once more, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. But as the mining facility receded into the distance, Carter couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Barzans would come for them again, driven by the same desperate hunger for power and conquest that had consumed them for generations. And when they did, the crew of the Hercules would be ready. Ready to fight, ready to sacrifice, ready to do whatever it took to keep the flame of humanity burning in the darkness of space. They carried with them the hopes and dreams of an entire species, the weight of countless lives resting on their shoulders. Carter looked out at the sea of stars, his jaw set with grim resolve. Come what may, they would see this through to the end. For Earth, for the Federation, for the future of all mankind. As the Hercules sped through the void towards Earth, Captain Carter and Dr. Reeves huddled over the schematics for the Prometheus weapon, fine-tuning the graviton emitters and power couplings. Carter glanced at Reeves, noting the determination etched into the lines of his face. "What drives you, Doc? What keeps you going out here in the cold and the dark?" Carter asked. Reeves paused, his eyes distant. "The Barzans. They raided my colony when I was a kid. Killed my family, my friends, everyone I knew. I swore I'd find a way to stop them, to protect others from that kind of loss." Carter nodded, understanding the pain that fueled Reeves's resolve. He clapped the engineer on the shoulder. "We'll make them pay. With Prometheus, we'll turn the tide. In the shadowed depths of Barzan space, Admiral Xenos paced the bridge of his flagship, a twisted grin splitting his scarred face. His spies had come through, delivering news of the humans' secret weapon, Prometheus, the key to their undoing. He turned to his tactical officer. Set a course for the Grendel system. Dispatch a strike team to the human colony there. We'll draw the Hercules into our web. As the Hercules neared Earth, Ares' avatar flickered to life on the bridge. Captain, I'm picking up a distress call from the Gaia colony. They're under attack. Carter's gut clenched. The colonists were defenseless, easy prey for the Barzans. But Earth was waiting, the Prometheus data too vital to risk. He wrestled with the decision, duty and conscience at war within him. Damn it, we can't leave them to die. He turned to the helm. Alter course, take us to Gaia colony, full burn. The Hercules dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Gaia system, the Barzan ships already swarming the colony's orbital defenses. Carter's eyes narrowed as he scanned the tactical display. Something wasn't right. The attack was too precise, too coordinated. And the ships. It's a trap, he barked. Evasive maneuvers, get us out of here. But it was too late. The Barzan ships pivoted, disgorging fighters and boarding craft like angry hornets from a kicked nest. At their center, a monstrous Imperator-class cruiser loomed, its hull bristling with reverse-engineered human tech. Tara's voice rang out, taut with urgency. Captain, we're surrounded. I count over 30 Barzan ships, including the modified cruiser. Their weapons are locking on. Carter's mind raced, desperation and tactics colliding in his thoughts. Xenos had played him, dangling the colony like bait on a hook, and he'd fallen for it. The deck shuddered as the first salvo slammed into the Hercules shields. Alarms blared, the ship's systems straining under the onslaught. Carter gripped the command chair, his knuckles white. They were outgunned and outmaneuvered, caught in the jaws of an enemy that sought to strip away humanity's last hope. But he'd be damned if he'd let them have it. The Prometheus was more than a weapon. It was a symbol, a beacon in the darkness, and he'd fight to his last breath to keep that light alive. Reeves, I need that Prometheus cannon online now. Ares, divert all power to shields and engines. We're going to have to get creative if we're going to survive this. The bridge crew stared at him, fear and trust mingling in their eyes. Carter met their gaze, his voice ringing with conviction. We've come too far to fail now. Earth is counting on us. Humanity is counting on us. So let's show these Barzan bastards what happens when you corner a human. Let's make them regret ever setting their sights on the Hercules. The crew nodded, determination hardening their faces. They turned back to their stations, ready to face the storm. Carter fixed his eyes on the view screen, the Barzan ships swarming like hungry predators. Xenos was out there, watching, waiting for his moment to strike. But Carter would be ready. He'd meet the Admiral's challenge, and he'd make sure the Prometheus found its way home. No matter the cost. Carter gripped the command chair as the Barzan ships swarmed around the Hercules, their plasma cannons unleashing a relentless barrage. The deck shuddered beneath his feet, alarm klaxons blaring. Shields at 20% and falling, Ares shouted over the din. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. Reeves darted to the tactical display, his face illuminated by the holographic projections. Captain, I've identified weak points in the Barzan shield configurations. If we focus the Prometheus cannon on these specific locations, we can punch through and disable their ships. Carter nodded, trusting Reeves's expertise. Do it. Relay the targeting data to all weapon stations. Concentrate fire on those weak points. The bridge crew sprang into action, their fingers flying across consoles as they fed the targeting information to the gunners. The Prometheus cannon hummed with power, its barrel glowing a brilliant blue. With a thunderous roar, the cannon fired, a lance of pure gravitational force streaking towards the nearest Barzan cruiser. The beam struck the shield at the specified weak point, the energy field rippling and distorting before collapsing entirely. The cruiser's hull crumpled like tin foil, atmosphere venting from gaping wounds. More shots followed, the Prometheus cannon wreaking havoc among the Barzan fleet. Ships spun out of control, their shields failing under the onslaught. Explosions blossomed in the void, debris careening off the Hercules' battered hull. On the bridge of his flagship, Xenos snarled as he watched his ships falter. "Concentrate all fire on the human vessel," he barked. "I want that weapon intact." The Barzan ships regrouped, focusing their attacks on the Hercules. The human ship shuddered under the barrage, its shields flaring and flickering. "Shields critical," Ares warned. "Structural integrity failing." Carter clenched his jaw, his mind racing. They couldn't withstand this onslaught much longer. They needed to shift the balance, to strike at the heart of the Barzan command. "Wilson Thompson," he called over the comm. "Assemble a boarding party. I need you to infiltrate Xenos' flagship, sabotage their systems, and gather any intel you can on their reverse-engineered tech." "Aye, Captain," Thompson responded, his voice tense but determined. Carter turned to Reeves. "Keep that cannon firing. Draw their attention. Give Wilson and Thompson a chance to get aboard." Reeves nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. The Prometheus cannon roared again and again, tearing into the Barzan ships with relentless fury. In the hangar bay, Wilson and Thompson gathered their team, heavily armed Marines with grim expressions. They boarded a sleek assault shuttle, its stealth systems engaged. The shuttle darted from the Hercules, weaving through the chaos of battle. Plasma blasts sizzled past, the pilots gripping the controls with white knuckles. With a jarring clang, the shuttle latched onto the hull of Xenos' flagship, cutting through the armor with a high-powered laser drill. Wilson and Thompson led the charge, storming into the alien ship with weapons blazing. Barzan soldiers swarmed to meet them, energy blasts crisscrossing the narrow corridors. Wilson took point, his pulse rifle spitting death with each squeeze of the trigger. Thompson followed close behind, hurling grenades that filled the passageways with searing shrapnel. They fought their way deeper into the ship, planting explosive charges at critical junctures. Consoles exploded, bulkheads crumpled, the very structure of the ship groaning under the assault. In the ship's data core, Thompson hacked into the mainframe, his fingers a blur on the alien keyboard. "Got it," he yelled over the chaos. "Downloading their tech schematics now." Just then, a squad of Barzan elites burst into the room, their armor bristling with advanced weaponry. Wilson and Thompson dove for cover, the Marines laying down a blistering, suppressive fire. Energy blasts stitched the walls, consoles detonating in showers of sparks. The stench of ozone and charred flesh filled the air. On the Hercules, Carter and Reeves fought desperately to keep the ship together. Consoles exploded, fires raging out of control. The hull groaned with each impact, the ship shaking itself apart. "Captain," Ares cried, "shields are gone. We can't take much more of this." Carter gripped the command chair, his knuckles white. They were out of options, out of time. If Wilson and Thompson didn't succeed... Suddenly, a massive explosion ripped through Xenos' flagship, the entire vessel shuddering with the force of the blast. Secondary detonations chained through the hull, the ship listing drunkenly. "Detonation confirmed." Thompson's voice crackled over the comm. "Xenos' ship is crippled." Carter allowed himself a tight smile. "Get your asses back here now." The assault shuttle blasted away from the stricken flagship, dodging debris and plasma fire. It streaked into the Hercules hangar bay, the Marines piling out with whoops of victory. On the bridge, Carter surveyed the tactical display. Xenos' ship drifted, burning and broken. The rest of the Barzan fleet milled uncertainly, thrown into disarray by the loss of their command ship. "Ares, plot a course for Earth, maximum burn," Carter ordered. "Let's get the hell out of here." The Hercules' engines flared to life, the ship turning its battered prow towards home. The Barzan ships gave chase, but their hearts were no longer in the fight. As the Hercules accelerated, leaving the battle behind, Carter sagged in his chair, exhaustion and relief warring within him. They had bought time, nothing more. The war was far from over. But they had struck a blow this day, shown the Barzans that humanity would not go quietly into the night. They would fight, they would bleed, they would sacrifice. And in the end they would prevail, no matter the cost. The battered Hercules shuddered as it limped through the starry void, a wounded beast struggling to reach the safety of home. In the dimly lit medbay, Reeves and the exhausted medical team worked feverishly to save the injured, their faces grim and focused. Thompson lay unconscious, his chest swathed in blood-soaked bandages as a medic monitored his vital signs. On the bridge, Carter and Wilson hunched over a console, eyes locked on the stolen data scrolling across the screen. Carter's fingers flew over the keys, his brow furrowed. "They've been studying our ships for years, reverse engineering our tech." Wilson shook his head. "No wonder they've been kicking our asses." Carter tapped the display, zooming in on a set of coordinates. "But look at this, a hidden research facility. If we take it out, we could cripple their weapons development," Wilson finished. Carter nodded, his jaw set. "We have to hit them now while they're still reeling." "Captain, the Hercules—" Wilson gestured at the damage reports flooding the screens. Carter met his gaze, eyes hard. "I know, but we can't let this chance slip away. Gather Reeves and any Marines still fit to fight. We're going in." Hours later, a battered Barzan shuttle glided through the void, its hull pitted with scars. Inside, Carter checked his rifle as Reeves and Wilson prepped a cache of explosives. The Marines, faces taut beneath their helmets, gripped their weapons in silence. The shuttle shuddered as it slipped past the facility's perimeter defenses, sliding into a deserted hangar bay. The hatch hissed open, and the team emerged, scanning the shadows with tense eyes. Carter signaled, and they split into two groups, moving swiftly through the dimly lit corridors. Carter and Wilson planted charges at key structural points, while Reeves led the Marines towards the heart of the facility, scouring labs and data cores for intel. Alarms blared as Barzan security forces converged on their positions, energy blasts sizzling through the air. The Marines returned fire, the confined spaces erupting into a brutal, close-quarters battle. Reeves hacked into a sealed lab, his eyes widening as he scanned the data on the screens. He downloaded it onto a drive, shoving it into his pack just as a plasma bolt seared past his head. Carter and Wilson fought their way into the facility's reactor control room, laying the final charges. As they turned to leave, a door hissed open, and a tall Barzan in a white coat stepped out, his hands raised. "Wait, please, I must speak with you," the Barzan said, his voice calm despite the chaos. Carter trained his rifle on the scientist's chest. "Give me one reason not to blow you away." The Barzan spread his hands. "Because we are not your enemy. We study you, yes, but to learn, to understand what makes you strong." Carter's finger tightened on the trigger. "You've got a funny way of showing it." "War is not our choice, but survival." The scientist shook his head. "Please, it doesn't have to be this way. We can learn from each other, grow together." For a moment, Carter wavered. The scientist's words echoed his own doubts, the questions that haunted him in the quiet hours. But then he thought of Thompson bleeding in the medbay, of the colonies burned by Barzan plasma, of a war that had raged for generations, a war that had taken everything from him. He shook his head. "No, we're done talking." He set the timer on the charges and stepped back. "Move out, now!" They raced through the halls, the countdown ticking in their ears. Reeves stumbled, a plasma bolt searing his leg. Wilson hauled him up, slinging an arm over his shoulders as they ran. The shuttle leapt from the hangar just as the charges detonated, the facility vanishing in a blinding flash of light. Fire blossomed in the void, debris hurtling past the tiny craft as it streaked away. In the shuttle's passenger bay, Carter slumped against the wall, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Reeves lay on the deck, his face pale as a medic tended to his wound. Wilson gripped Carter's shoulder. "We did it. We hit them where it hurts." Carter nodded, his eyes distant. "Yeah, but this is just the beginning. They'll be back, and we have to be ready." The shuttle sped on through the stars, the Hercules looming ahead like a battered sentinel. The war still raged, the future still uncertain. But for now, they had struck a blow. For now, they had hope. As the battered Hercules descended through Earth's atmosphere, its hull still scorched from the fierce battles it had endured, Captain Carter felt a mix of relief and sorrow wash over him. They had struck a blow against the Barzans, but at a terrible cost. The ship touched down on the landing pad, and Carter stepped out to a hero's welcome. Crowds cheered and reporters clamored for a statement, but he couldn't muster a smile. Too many had paid the price for this victory. In the days that followed, the stolen data and technology were analyzed and incorporated into Earth's defense network. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, determined to unlock the secrets that could turn the tide of the war. But even as the tide of battle shifted, Carter couldn't escape the weight of the losses they had suffered. At the funeral for Thompson, Reeves, and the other fallen heroes, he stood in silent mourning, his heart heavy with grief. As he listened to the eulogies, the Barzan scientists' words echoed in his mind. In their desperate struggle for survival, had they lost sight of the possibility of peace? Had they become so consumed by war that they could no longer imagine a future without it? With these thoughts weighing on him, Carter met with TSF High Command to discuss the future of the conflict. They pored over star maps and battle plans, strategizing how best to defend the human colonies and strike back against the Barzans. In recognition of his service and leadership, Carter was promoted to the rank of Admiral. He accepted the honor with a solemn nod, knowing the heavy responsibility that came with it. As he prepared to take command of a new state-of-the-art warship, equipped with Prometheus technology, Carter couldn't shake a sense of unease. He knew the road ahead would be long and bloody, that many more lives would be lost before the end. In a quiet moment, he reflected on the bond he had shared with his crew, on the sacrifices they had made for each other and for humanity. He vowed to honor their memory, to fight not just for survival, but for the hope of a future where humans and Barzans could coexist in peace. As he boarded his new ship and set out on his mission, Carter carried the weight of his experiences with him. The Hercules, once a symbol of humanity's resilience, was now a haunting reminder of the price of victory and the uncertain future that lay ahead. If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I like the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.